Hi students, in the previous videos we seen about the first unit and second unit of our DC machines and transformer subjects. So in this video onwards we will see about the third unit of our DC machines and transformer subject. So before going to that, let us see the syllabus for that third unit. So in this third unit we will see about the DC motors. So coming to the contents of the DC motors are force on conductor carrying current, back EMF, torque and power developed by the armature, speed control of the DC motor, that is armature control and flux control methods, necessity of the starters, construction details of the 3-point and 4-point starters, characteristics of the DC motors, losses in the DC machines, condition for the maximum efficiency, and testing of the DC machines. Under this, we go for the 5 tests: brake test, Swinburne's test, Hopkinson test, field test, and retardation test. So, coming to the introduction of our DC machines. So, a DC motor is a machine which converts the electrical energy into mechanical energy, and this can be used for the so many applications in steel plants, paper mills, textile mills, cranes, printing presses, electrical locomotives, etc. So by seeing this slide here we have our DC motor, and for the DC motor the input is the electrical power and the output is the mechanical power. So normally this DC machine can be the DC machine or DC motor can be used for the converting the electrical energy into mechanical energy and works on the principle of Lorentz force equation. So according to Lorentz force equation, when a current carrying conductor is placed between the magnetic field, it will experience some force, and the direction of that force can be given by the Fleming's left hand rule. Fleming's left hand rule. That means when a current carrying conductor is placed between the magnetic field, as a force will be developed, definitely that force will be acting in any one direction. So that direction can be decided by the Fleming's left hand rule. So according to Fleming's left hand rule, the 3 fingers of a left hand will be stretched like this. That means perpendicular to each other. So in this, the forefinger indicates the magnetic field direction and the middle finger indicates the direction of the current. Then the thumb indicates the direction of the force. Direction of the force. In the slide also we have from the north pole to south pole, direction of the magnetic field will be indicated, and the direction of the current will be towards direction. That means that can be represented with a dot. Then the force developed is upward direction. Upward direction. That means upward direction means anti-clockwise direction. Sorry, clockwise direction. So in this manner, the direction of the force will be decided by the Fleming's left hand rule. However, this will be understand by the coming slides. So in this slide we have one conductor. So for this conductor we don't give any power supply. So that will be a simple one conductor. That conductor is placed between the north pole and south pole of a magnet. Then there is no reaction. So if you give some current to that conductor, then what happened? So here is the one conductor, and that conductor is nothing but the current carrying conductor, and that current direction is outward direction. How we say means, if you represent one cross symbol inside the conductor, then there is a meaning of outward direction. If you represent one dot to that conductor symbol, then that is a meaning of inward direction. So according to Fleming's right hand thumb rule, if the thumb indicates the current direction, then the remaining fingers indicates the flux direction developed by that current carrying conductor. So here this one is the outward direction. So the flux direction is in this manner. That means clockwise direction. So when we give the current to the conductor, then that conductor will be experiencing some magnetic field. So if you place this conductor to the magnetic field produced by the north pole and south pole, then definitely there will be some addition and cancellation of the fluxes takes place. How means? So here the flux direction is in this direction, and the current carrying conductor direction is also in this direction. So both the directions are in the both the fluxes are in the same direction. So the fluxes will be added. Addition of the fluxes takes place. And coming to this direction, here one flux is one direction and the another flux is in the another direction. So there those two directions are those two fluxes are cancelled to each other. So the flux cancellation takes place. So as a result, some force will be developed, and the direction of that force can be given by the Fleming's left hand rule. The direction of that force will be given by the Fleming's left hand rule. So with this force, definitely we will develop on torque. How means the twisting force is nothing but torque. That means the force action with some distance is nothing but torque direction. So this torque direction is not this torque action is also called as motoring action. And after the motoring action completes, then our motor will be operated in the generator mode. Our motor will be operated in the generator mode. How means? So when the force developed in the rotor of the motor, then definitely the motor of the rotor will be rotates in the field of the two magnets, north pole and south pole. So according to Faraday's first law, when a rotating conductor placed between the magnetic field, it will cut the flux and an EMF will be induced in it, and that EMF direction can be decided by the what we see in our next slide. So, according to Faraday's law, when a moving conductor is placed between the magnetic field, an EMF will be induced in it. So, here, first our conductor is a stationary conductor, then our conductor is a current carrying conductor. As a result, some force will be developed. So, with that force, our rotor will be rotated. So, in the same motor, we can have the generator principle also, generator operation also. How means the the rotating rotor itself generates some EMF. That EMF is nothing but back EMF. Back EMF. So when the rotor of the motor will be rotates in the magnetic field, so to satisfy the Faraday's first law, definitely some EMF will be induced, and that EMF direction can be decided by the Lenz law. What is Lenz law? The cause opposes the effect must oppose the cause. Sorry, here we have the effect must oppose the cause. So here what is the effect? Generated back EMF. Generated back EMF. And what is the cause? Rotation of the motor. So that's why the generated back EMF must be opposite to the rotation of the motor. So that opposes the motor rotation. So that's why this EMF is called as back EMF, and that can be given as EB is equal to P phi NZ by 60A. P phi NZ by 60A. So then what is the voltage equation of the DC motor? So in the DC generators we already seen. So what is that means? The back EMF generated voltage EG is equal to terminal voltage V plus IARA, armature drop IARA plus brush drop. But here in the motor we can write the equation in terms of the terminal voltage. In the generator we write the equation in terms of the generated voltage, nothing but back EMF here. And in the motor we write the equation in terms of the terminal voltage. So terminal voltage VT can be given as EB plus IARA plus brush drop. So if you neglect the brush drop voltage, then the generalized equation for the DC motor is V is equal to EB plus IARA. V equal to EB plus IARA. So from this, armature current is equal to V minus EB by RA. So what is the significance of the back EMF? So with the presence of the back EMF, the armature currents applied to the DC motors will be less. Why? Because this back EMF will be subtracted by the terminal voltage. So the total value will be somewhat reduces. So somewhat reduces means armature current also reduces. So as armature currents are reduces, then there is no damage, there is no high amount of the armature currents. So there is no damage to our the DC motors, and as the motor rotates is going on, then the back EMF will be reduced. So then the armature current will be increased. So at starting and in any case, the back EMF will be used for the controlling of the armature currents in order to reduce the damage to the rotor of the motor. This is about the voltage equation of the DC motor. And coming to the torque equation of the DC motor. So the torque, I already told, the torque is nothing but turning or twisting force about an axis is called torque. So here our rotor will be rotate with a radius r and definitely with some force. So the torque can be given as force into that radius. Force into that radius. That means F into R is nothing but torque equation. So here the speed of the that means the speed of the motor will be n, and since that will be rotates in a circular manner, we can consider here angular speed of the wheel. Now that angular speed will can be given as the omega is equal to 2 pi n by 60, 2 pi n by 60. So the work done by the force can be given as the work done by the force can be given as the force into displacement. This is the normal our physics formula. So force into displacement, here force is the F and the displacement is the throughout the perimeter of the rotor. So the rotor will be in the circular shape, so that's why the perimeter for the circle is 2 pi r. So we can write the force into distance as the F into 2 pi r, F into 2 pi r. So next, power developed by the motor can be given as power developed by the motor equal to what? Work done for time. Work done per time is nothing but power developed, and we already know that n means speed, and that can be represented in terms of the rpm. Rpm means rotation per minute. So if you consider that rotation for second, then we can get n by 60. So that is the revolutions per 1 second is n by 60. Then time for a revolution can be given as the reciprocal of that n by 60, that can be given as the 60 by n. So work done is equal to F into 2 pi r divided by 60 by n, that equal to F into r into 2 pi into n by 60. So I already told torque equal to F into r, that equal to t into 2 pi into n by 60. So the torque developed by the motor can be given as the with prefix a, ta. Then the power developed in the armature can be given as pa is equal to ta into 2 pi n by 60. But the power developed in the armature in terms of the voltage and currents also we know. How means, in terms of the voltages and currents, power can be given as the voltage into current into cos of the angle between the voltage and current in case of AC. But here our discussion is in terms of DC. So that's why simply we have for in DC the cos term value is cos phi value is unity power factor. So we can write the simply V into I, that means EB into IA, where EB is the back EMF of the motor and IA is the armature current of the motor. So this is the power and this is the power. So those two are equal. So TA into 2 pi n by 60 is equal to EB into IA. But we know that the EB is equal to P phi NZ by 60A. So if you substitute that P phi NZ by 60A in this EB, so the equation equal to 60 60 cancel and N cancel. Then we get P phi Z by A into IA is equal to TA into 2 pi, Ta into 2 pi. So if you make only Ta at one side, then 1 by 2 pi into phi into Ia into Pz by A. So the value of 1 by 2 pi is equal to 0.159. So the torque of the armature is equal to 0.159 into phi into Ia into Pz by A Newton meter. The unit for the torque is Newton per meter. So this is the torque equation of the DC motor. And next, power developed by the motor we can given as, or we can write as, we already know that V equal to EB plus IARA in case of the DC motor, whereas in case of the DC generator EG is equal to V plus IARA. So here our discussion is only for DC motor. So the terminal voltage equation V equal to EB plus IARA. So if you multiply this equation with IA on both sides, then V into IA is equal to EB into IA plus IA square into RA. So here the V into IA is known as the electrical power supplied to the armature, and next EB into IA equal to power developed by the armature, and next IA square into RA is equal to electrical power wasted in the armature, that is nothing but copper losses, armature copper losses. So this is the power equation, and next the condition for the maximum power can be, we can derive as, we can derive the power equation with respect to armature current, and that may be equal to 0, then we can obtain the maximum condition for the maximum power, so what is the condition for the maximum power in case of the DC motors? Are the mechanical power developed by the motor, we already known, EB into IA. This can be, I write as PM. Then what is the equation? V into IA is equal to PM plus IA square RA. V into IA equal to PM plus IA square RA. So then PM is equal to V into IA minus IA square RA. So in order to get the maximum power according to our mathematical rules, we can derive with respect to IA and equal to 0. So by deriving the equation with respect to IA and equating to 0, then here we have V into IA. So derivation of VIA, then V into derivation of the IA with respect to IA equal to 1. So V into 1 V minus I square means 2 into IA into RA is equal to 0. So here IA RA is equal to V by 2. IA RA equal to V by 2, and we know that the terminal voltage equation V is equal to EB plus IARA, that equal to EB plus V by 2. Why? Because IARA equal to V by 2, that is the condition for the maximum power. So if you solving this one, what we have, V equal to EB plus V by 2, then EB is equal to V by 2. That means for mechanical power developed by the motor is maximum, then the back EMF must be equal to the half of the applied voltage. So this is the condition for the maximum power. So in the next video we will see about the types of the DC motors and speed control methods of the DC motors and various starting methods for the DC motors. Thank you.